Okay, so we are moving on to the third and final phase of our cabin scene, learning some of the basics. I would like to begin by just adding something simple that we've pretty much already used before. But let's go ahead and click and hold on the shape tool, whichever one you have selected, and let's select the star tool. So we use the star to make triangles, so most likely it's already in a triangle format. So let's push our up arrow twice, or 3 times, I'll let you choose, whichever kind of star you like best. And I want you to make a star, and notice I have this gradient that I made, this custom gradient in my star, which looks kind of cool, but I think I'd rather make some white stars. So once I've selected white, I'm going to just kind of make some twinkling stars up in the sky. And notice as I drag, I'm kind of letting them twist, um, just to kind of give it some variety. Okay, so twisting my stars up in the sky, just kind of adding a little twinkle to it. Okay, so now that I'm done with that, we're going to do something a little bit more difficult. And to do this next step, we're going to need to open another palette. We have our basic set already open, but we need something new. So if you go to Window, you'll notice that all of the palettes that are open and running have a black check mark next to them. And we want to open a new one, which is called Pathfinder. So click Pathfinder, and it oftentimes pops up kind of right in your workspace. So I like to move it over to the side. I may use it a lot, or I may want to just use it once and close it. So I'm just going to keep it right here for now. Pathfinder is an excellent tool for grouping shapes together and subtracting shapes. Illustrator is a very mathematical kind of vector program, and it's very shape-based, so we use this a lot. We're going to use it to make a crescent moon. So make sure you have a little space off to the side. Sometimes I like to work off to the side of my document, so I just either pull this little jelly bean over or use the mouse to kind of scroll to the side, so I've got some workspace to create something new. And we'll drag it on here when we're done. I'm going to start with a perfect circle. So remember, to make something perfect, you hold Shift, and it creates that perfect circle. We're going to drag a nice big circle. And this is dangerous, by the way, because I have white with no stroke. If I clicked away, I could not see this circle anywhere. And a lot of beginners will do this, and they'll have 20 circles all over their page, and they didn't even notice. So immediately, let's make sure we get a yellow fill. We're going to make a yellow circle. Okay, next I'd like you to get your black arrow, your best friend here, and hold Option, which copies. So we're just going to copy that circle halfway across the other one to the right. And we want to select both of them at the same time. We do not want to group, so don't go Object Group. This is a different kind of thing, so we're not grouping it. We have them both selected, and we're going to look up here at our Pathfinder and notice the first icon looks like it groups things together, and we actually want to subtract the top circle. So we're going to click Subtract, and then we have to hit Expand, and you'll notice when you hit Expand, all that extra junk goes away that was kind of indicating where the old circle was. So now we've got this pretty little half moon. We can put it into our document. Now this is giant, and it's also straight up and down. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to hold my Shift key and shrink it, and maybe even a little bit more, just a smaller moon. And then I'm going to put it up here, and I'm going to hover my mouse outside of the corner. Any of the corners will do this. And I'm going to just slightly tilt it, rotate it, so it's kind of more of a whimsical half moon, or crescent moon. Okay, so that's the moon and the Pathfinder. So we're going to leave that open because we may use the Pathfinder again later. The next thing we want to do is I'd like to put in some text on my document, on my little scene. I'm going to put this guy back in the middle. In fact, I'm going to go back to normal. So remember, if you ever want your screen back, front, and center, you can click on this blue arrow and go to Fit on Screen. And everything will be right, nice and big right in front of you. And move this little star over too. Get that guy out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to put in what's called text on a path. If you click and hold on your T tool in Illustrator, you'll see lots of choices for text. The top one does just your basic word processing, straight type. We are going to use what's called type on a path. And what type on a path does is it will create a interesting type that goes along whatever path you choose. So before we even use it, we need to make a path. So I'm actually going to use my pencil. Don't use my pencil too much in this program, but this is a great option for it. Before I draw a path, I really want to change my settings. I'm going to click on default settings here first, and then I want no fill. I just want a black stroke, just like a pencil, just a black line. So I'm going to drag a black kind of wiggly line here, something kind of like that. That looks great. Now I can move that if I get my black arrow. I have to make sure I'm right on the edge of that line, but I'm going to put that right across the front. Now this takes a couple times sometimes. If you hate your line you drew, just delete it, get your pencil, try it again. Don't do something crazy like this, because if you did it too wiggly, it would be really hard to read your text. So you just want like a nice gradual drifty line. That one's not quite long enough. Let me give myself a little more space. So here we go. There's my path. Now my path is looking pretty good, so I'm going to get my text on a path tool now. And I don't want to click too far to this side. I like to click right kind of in a little bit from the beginning and just click once, and you'll see a blinking cursor, just like if you were typing a paper in a Word project. So I'm going to type twinkle, twinkle, little star. Now notice I only used a little space, but I'm going to either highlight this or triple click to make sure I have all the words selected. And I need to make it bigger. So let's just kind of look up at the top. All your settings for text now are right here waiting for you because you're on your T tool. So I'm going to go up, 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 up. And you know, I'm liking this, but this font is Helvetica, or actually Myramid Pro. And it's not that interesting. I want something a little more whimsical for this little practice lesson. So if I click here, I can see all of the different fonts, but I don't know what they look like. So there's a better way. You can go type, font, and then in here it'll give you a preview. So I can kind of scroll around. There's a lot to choose from, but I think I'm just going to choose this brush script. It's just kind of a basic, you know, more decorative looking font. So now that I've changed to brush script, I'm going to keep going because I've got lots of space and I want it to kind of wiggle over the top of this. Just about like that. Now when I get my black arrow and click away, I have got text on a path. And the nice thing is you can move this wherever you want within your space. And you can also change the color just like an object. So maybe I want to try it in white. I think that makes it a little bit more fitting for the assignment. Okay, so we've learned about the Pathfinder. We've learned about text on a path. The last thing we're going to do is one more little Pathfinder assignment. And that's to put some smoke coming out, billowing out from our cabin to kind of add a little focal point down here. So I'm going to scoot over just a bit one more time. It's got some space. I'm going to get my ellipse tool and I'm just going to make a big pile of gray circles. So let's make the circle gray. And I want you to just kind of imagine like what smoke would look like if it was sort of billowing out of a cabin. So probably start sort of little down to the bottom. Make sure that you don't have any gaps where there's white showing through here. So I'm going to make just kind of a random little smoky blob. Okay, now really all this is a bunch of circles, right? But it's going to go right on top of my cabin and we're going to make it look a little more smoky. So first thing we want to do is we're going to select everything, and this time we want to look at Pathfinder. We want to group all those, not group, remember we don't go up to object group, we want to create one shape out of many. So I just click this tool, and then nothing really looks like it happened, but then I hit expand, and now I've got one big shape. So I want to also just kind of move this onto my scene, see how it looks here. It doesn't look so good quite yet, it just kind of looks like a big blob. We want to make it transparent so you can actually see the trees behind it. So there's a little tab right here peeking out behind gradient. You want to let's just slide this little slider down to about 75. Notice now when I click away you can see the trees behind it. It's got a little more detail. Now we're going to do one last thing, and this can be tricky, so if it doesn't work for you, do all those steps one more time, and usually on the second try it works just fine. So I'm going to click on my clouds, and I'm going to get what's called the gradient mesh tool. It's right next to the gradient tool, but it kind of looks like it's a spider web on it. So get the gradient mesh, and just click once anywhere inside of your little cloud, and you'll see all this pop up. And there's just one more click, which is come over and let's select white. And you'll notice it gave more of a blend. It took the white, blended it out to the gray. I'm going to get my black arrow and click away, and now I've got some smoke billowing out of my cabin. Okay, so we learned a couple more add-ons with special effects here. Looks like we've started with this very basic cabin, very basic forest, getting a little bit more detailed as we work along, but this is all good information to build upon in Adobe Illustrator as you learn more and more.